You're back with us on America's Forum. We're glad to have you. I'm J.D. Hayworth.
And I'm John Bachman. J.D., let's get straight to some of today's top headlines making news around the world today. The Chinese Foreign Ministry says that the search effort for the missing Malaysia Airlines plane will continue, quote, as long as there is a glimmer of hope. Spokesman Hong Lei confirmed that China had sent 2 planes to help in the southern Indian Ocean search for signs of possible debris. The area is close to the zone where the Australian government announced objects possibly associated to the Malaysian Airlines missing plane were spotted. Ships have rushed to the location, but so far, no sightings have been confirmed. Back home in the United States, 8 people are dead and at least 108 are still missing after a landslide in Washington state buried homes and cars under mud 15 feet deep in places. The search for victims resumed today after dangerous quicksand conditions forced rescue workers to suspend their efforts at dusk Sunday. Some workers had to be dragged to safety after becoming mired in mud to their armpits. The landslide was triggered after rain-soaked embankments gave way, washing away at least 6 homes initially. And this is interesting here. Turkish fighter jets shot down a Syrian warplane after it violated Turkey's airspace on Sunday. Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan congratulated the Turkish military for protecting the border. Our F-16 took off and shot this plane, Erdogan told his supporters. Now, if you violate our border, our slap will be hard. A spokesman for Syria's military confirmed the incident, but said the plane was shot down in a Syrian airspace while attacking rebels and said it was, quote, blunt aggression. More to come on that, I'm sure. As President Hamid Karzai leaves office in Afghanistan, the void he leaves behind is proving difficult to fill. Afghans' fractured ethnic groups are more divided than ever over which presidential candidate to support, and the list of candidates is causing genuine concern. Many have violent histories, I should say, and several have been named by Human Rights Watch as abusers of human rights, responsible for mass killings during the 1992 to 1996 civil war. The Afghan people explain the presence of warlords and ethnic strongmen on the ballot as the best that it can be expected of a country not yet ready to embrace Western-style democracy. And top climate scientists are gathering in Japan this week to finish a report on the impact of global warming. The report stresses the dangers of a warming Earth and concludes that the dangers are immediate and very human. It's still the subject of much debate, and there's not just melting ice at issue here. Threatened animals and plants are also taking center stage. It's about human problems of hunger, disease, drought, flooding, refugees, and war becoming worse. The report's chief author, Chris Field, says, quote, it's very clear that we are not prepared for the kind of events we are seeing. Still a lot of debate, obviously, there on global warming. The co-author of the best-selling new book about Pope Francis recently met with the pontiff at the Vatican. Luis Rosales took the opportunity to present a copy of his work, Francis, a Pope for Our Time, coming from the Newsmax family, a definitive biography to the Pope himself. Rosales' book incisively chronicles Pope Francis' ancestry, his youth, his call to faith, his humble beginnings with the Society of Jesus, and rise through Argentina's ecclesiastical ranks all the way up to the Vatican. Pope Francis entertained Rosales and also was excited about the upcoming Spanish edition of the book, which will likely be released in the Pope's home country of Argentina. But before we can talk a little bit more about that, of course, we got to talk about the 2014 midterms as well. The Democrats got a big wake-up call this weekend. The founder and editor of the popular website 538, Nate Silver, is predicting that the GOP will take back the Senate this time around. Nate Silver gives the Grand Old Party at least a 60% chance of winning control. And although he tempers his prediction by saying that there's still a long way to go before November, many are taking notice because, of course, Silver was so accurate in predicting the outcomes of the 2012 election, not just the presidential, but several key Senate races as well.
Yeah, Nate Silver really did the job in 2010. But it's not only Nate Silver. This is scarcely a controversial situation.
Sure.
Again, we always issue the caveat. I remember when former Texas Senator Phil Gramm would say it with that distinctive accent of his, 6 months is a lifetime in politics. And that is very true. But the indications are right now that the voters who are mobilized, and really it reflects back on this 4th birthday for Obamacare, being problematic for so many people in terms of their wallet, in terms of what they're paying out. and the prospects for the future, and of course not being able to keep their own doctors. So when you have that going, this becomes an issue. Dick Morris spoke with us about it earlier in our internet broadcast today, and I'd make this point. It was a book by Richard Neustadt at Harvard, of all places, Presidential Power, where Dr. Neustadt said there are two issues that really motivate the American people. Issues of life and death, and as Dick Morris mentioned, the draft during the Vietnam War was so much a part of that, but the other issue being pocketbook issues. Now stop and think about what Obamacare does. It puts those issues together. In terms of health care, your own physical well-being, that of your loved ones, perhaps being an issue of life or death, and also the effect it has on your pocketbook. So when you have those two factors at work in one policy named Obamacare, small wonder that last week House Democrat leader Nancy Pelosi was saying, no, please don't call this Obamacare. It's the Affordable Health Care Act. Affordable, affordable, affordable. Well, Nancy, no, it's not. And that's the problem for your party and so many of your candidates heading into the midterms.
Yeah, it's like as if she's trying to rebrand it now. You know, the president famously said that you can call it Obamacare because he was proud of the law, but now the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, is saying don't call it Obamacare. Maybe that's because it has been called that for so long, and when people are polled, maybe they have some focus group info that we don't have, that it doesn't test well. Maybe she's hoping calling it something else will help, but you know,
you can never get away, and I've been through this personal experience. You can say an election has to do with a specific congressional seat, but almost always a midterm election is a referendum on the party in the White House. And that's so often what happens. It's one of the reasons I'm back in private life after what happened in 2006. One of the reasons a lot of Democrats were booted in the elections of 2010, and it would appear now as Obamacare's chickens come home to roost, using a phrase, there'll be a few more departures on the Democrat side of the aisle, at least as situations look right now, and certainly that holds promise for Republicans in the United States.
And as you mentioned, very telling, the president choosing a written statement as a form to celebrate, if you will, the 4th anniversary of Obamacare.
It is very interesting to see the president literally nowhere around to talk about it. Of course, international business does await, and that's why he's in the Netherlands today.
All right, much more ahead here on the show. We'll have Tim Colley coming up with us to talk about some of the biggest stories on Newsmax.com today. And of course, we want to hear from you. We'll get to your comments coming up at the very end of the show. You can reach out to us on social media at Newsmax TV.